Ever questioned what the denizens of the medieval era consumed for their Christmas dinner? Picture an era when Christmas was no mere one-day event, but a prolonged season of grand festivities spread across multiple weeks. And at the epicenter of this joyous event was the Grand Feast, a spectacle that mirrored the host's wealth and generosity. The gastronomic delights served were as varied as the regions they originated from the regal feast of roasted boar and venison in England's noble estates, to the modest but hearty meal of polenta and salted fish enjoyed by a humble Italian family. Get ready as we embark on a nostalgic journey back in time to discover the delectable and somewhat peculiar dishes that adorned the medieval Christmas dining table. In the early medieval period, Christmas feasts were a simple affair. Simplicity, however, does not imply a lack of deliciousness or abundance. The early medieval folks knew how to make the most of what was readily available, and the season played a significant role in shaping their Christmas menu. Winter in many parts of Europe was a time when the earth went into hibernation, but it also offered its own unique bounty. Root vegetables like turnips and parsnips, along with cabbages, were harvested late in the year and stored for the cold months. These hardy veggies formed an essential part of the Christmas feasts. But what's a feast without some meat? Preserved meats were a staple. Whether it was smoked, salted or dried, preservation techniques allowed the meat to last through the winter. And of course there was homemade bread, baked fresh, often from grains harvested earlier in the year and ground into flour. The church, ever a significant influence in medieval life, also had a say in the Christmas menu. The 40 days leading up to Christmas, known as Advent, were marked by fasting. No meat, dairy or eggs were consumed during this period. The Christmas feast was thus a celebration in more ways than one, a breaking of the fast with a hearty meal. So those early Christmas feasts were hearty but relatively simple. However, things were about to get a lot more elaborate. As we move into the high medieval period, Christmas feasts become a grand spectacle. The wealth and prosperity that defined this era ushered in an age of indulgence and opulence, particularly when it came to food. With wealth came the opportunity to push the boundaries of culinary exploration, leading to the development of more elaborate and extravagant feasts. The introduction of spices from the East played a significant role in this transformation. Pepper, cinnamon, cloves, and saffron became highly prized commodities, not just for their ability to enhance flavor, but also for their status symbol. The use of these exotic spices was a way to flaunt one's wealth and power. After all, only the affluent could afford such luxuries. But spices weren't the only extravagant elements to grace the medieval Christmas table. Exotic meats also featured prominently on the menu. Imagine being served a peacock, its feathers still intact, or a swan, roasted to perfection. These were not everyday meals but culinary works of art intended to impress and delight guests. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of these feasts, however, was the concept of subtleties. These were elaborate edible sculptures often made from sugar paste or marzipan, and they were the highlight of the feast. They could take the form of castles, mythical creatures, or scenes from biblical stories. Subtleties were not just about taste, they were a feast for the eyes, a testament to the chef's skill and creativity. Indeed, the high medieval period saw Christmas feasts evolve into much more than a meal. They were a sensory experience, a celebration of wealth, a display of culinary prowess, and a testament to the human love for spectacle and indulgence. From simple beginnings, the medieval Christmas feast had transformed into a gastronomic spectacle. But what about the late medieval period? As we journey into the late medieval period, Christmas feasts begin to take on a familiar form. The late medieval period was a time of great culinary transformation. As trade routes expanded and the New World was discovered, new foods began to make their way to the tables of European nobility. One such food was the turkey. This bird, native to the Americas, was a new and exciting addition to the Christmas feast. It was larger than the fowl commonly served at the time, and its meat was considered a delicacy, perfect for a celebration like Christmas. But the turkey wasn't the only newcomer on the dining scene. The late medieval period also saw the evolution of the Christmas pie. Now, when we think of Christmas pies, we think of sweet, spiced pies filled with dried fruits and nuts. But the original Christmas pie was a far cry from this. The earliest Christmas pies were simple meat pies. They were filled with whatever meat was available, often venison or beef, and baked in a thick, hard pastry designed more to preserve the meat than to be eaten. Over time, however, the Christmas pie evolved. Spices from the East, such as cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves, started to be added to the filling. Dried fruits such as dates and raisins were mixed in. The hard, inedible pastry was replaced with a more delicate, flaky crust. The result was a sweet, spiced pie that would be recognizable to us today. This evolution of the Christmas pie mirrors the changes that were happening in society at the time. The late medieval period was a time of change and exploration. New lands were being discovered, new ideas were being born, and the Christmas feast was evolving right alongside it. So, from humble beginnings, the medieval Christmas feast evolved to become a grand celebration of food, wealth, and, of course, the festive spirit. So there you have it, a journey through the culinary history of the medieval Christmas feast. We've traveled from the early medieval period, with its simple and seasonal fare, to the sensory explosion of the High Middle Ages, and finally to the changing tastes of the late medieval era. Each era brought its own unique flavors and traditions to the Christmas table. Next time you sit down to your Christmas dinner, spare a thought for those medieval feasts that helped shape our festive traditions today.